and I am here to discuss reflections and some self-reflecting tips for you guys. We're going to discuss two things today that I think are at the basis of self-reflection. One of them is how do you handle your environment, and the other one is how are your emotions communicating with you. So you kind of, when you're thinking about your emotions, want to consider yourself an avatar type situation, and your emotions are a communication with you about yourself and your environment. So I always tell people we believe in the Holy Trinity. We believe in the knowledge, the practical implementation of that knowledge, and the relationship between the two. So a lot of times when we have emotions, it's dealing with our perception of life and our reality and the relationship between the two. So for beginner's intuition, one thing that we always tell people is that there are 5 primary emotions. So just like you have primary colors, you have 3, you have 5 primary emotions, and those emotions are your base emotions, and then they mix together to make your secondary and tertiary emotions, and so on like that. So you have sadness. And it's really important that you understand that anytime that you have sadness, that is the perception of a loss. So when you are sad, you are perceiving loss. It could be an imaginary loss or it could be a real physical loss. But sadness is letting you know that something is lost to you. Anger is always letting you know that something isn't fair. Every time that you're really angry is because something isn't fair. And again, that could be imaginary or it could be based in reality. Either way, your anger is telling you that something's not fair. Then you have joy. Joy is about validation and accomplishments. So when you feel joy, it's because you've either accomplished something that you want. And people who feel joy through accomplishments and their own accomplishments are usually people who have their own self-resolve a little bit. So joy also works with validation when other people appreciate you or you can appreciate yourself. The great thing about joy is it can come from those things, but it really only stays through your own resolve. And so although we seek joy, a lot of people have a tendency to feel like it's very short-lived. If you don't understand your intentions and the map that you use to get to where you're going, sometimes you find that you're not happy at your destination. And so I think that resolve is one of those things that prolongs joy, and it's a catalyst for joy. So we said sadness, anger, joy. Then there is fear, and fear is really your base emotion. Fear is just telling you that you might be unsafe. Again, it could be an imaginary thing. It is the relationship between your perceived situation and the reality of your situation, and what you're trying to do all the time is align the two things. So fear can be imaginary, it can be very valid in reality. However, you deal with it by knowing that it's telling you that you may not be safe. Then the last one is disgust. And disgust is really important. We have a tendency to think that if we're repelled by something, it is because that thing is bad. But sometimes we're repelled by things that aren't necessarily bad. We just don't want them in our life, in our thing. We're repelled by things that smell bad or that look bad but that things that we don't want to enter into our space. So understanding disgust without judgment is really important. I do not want that in my space. However, I have to make room for it to exist. And then the other thing that for beginner self-reflection that you should probably know about yourself is how you interact with your own environment. And this could be, so some people make a lot of changes within their environment to keep it the same. So like, think about it like somebody who mows their lawn to keep their lawn the same. The lawn is actually ever changing. They're having to provide an action to keep the lawn from changing. So any kind of prep work or work that you do to make things stay the same for you, that is one way to handle your environment. There are other people in this world though, and those people are a little bit more chaotic. They'd rather deal with the environment as is. So as the environment changes, they adapt and pivot. This often seems like a more chaotic lifestyle, but the great thing about reflecting on these things is being honest with yourself about who you are. And chaos with honesty can prove to be a very powerful thing. And so those are the beginning things that we look at when we're dealing with beginner intuition and beginning to understand yourself and reflect within yourself. So good luck. Have a beautiful day. The connection is real.